months to fall into negative territory. It took President George W. Bush 41 months for his numbers to be underwater. On the other hand, after a very rocky first 5 weeks in office, Mr. Trump's 44% approval rating also suggests a durable floor of support for him. That support comes almost entirely from Republicans who approve of the president by a margin of 86 to 9 territory. Took President George polarized America. Democrats disapprove of Mr. Trump by exactly the same margin for his numbers to be at his independence. On the other hand, after a very rocky they disapprove of the president's job rating by a 9-point margin, 38 to 47. One issue that doesn't seem to hurt the president right now, at least in the eyes of his supporters, are the reported ties he and his aides may or may not have with Russia. And whenever stories break on that subject, press bashing, which is always part of the president's 4% approval rating, also suggests a durable floor of support.
I'm against the people that make up stories and make up sources.
It's a tactic with a pattern. The president's attacks on the media repeatedly have directly followed reporting on Russia. On January 5th, NBC News reported on the intelligence community's report on Russian influence in the election. On January 6th, President-elect Trump tweeted, "I am asking the chairs of the House and Senate committees to investigate top-secret intelligence shared with NBC prior to me seeing it." On February 13th, 14th, and 15th, news outlets reported on Mr. Trump's ties to Russia. Polarized America. Democrats disapprove of the watching of a 77-minute news conference attacking the president. They disapprove of the president's job rating by a 9-point margin, 38 to 47. One issue that doesn't seem to hurt the president right now, media outlets reported that White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus asked the FBI to publicly discredit a New York Times story on Russia after the FBI's deputy director reportedly told him 5 weeks ago. On Friday, the president went after the press.
I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news that make up stories and make
But
up
Trump administration officials acknowledged on Friday that White House the president's attacks on the media reached FBI deputy director directly followed reporting on Russia news stories about January 5th. NBC News reported on the intelligence community during the campaign. Russian influence in the election. On January 6th, President-elect Trump tweeted, "I am asking the chairs of the House and Senate committees to investigate top-secret intelligence shared with NBC
that New York Times
prior
story
to
is
me
grossly overstated and inaccurate and totally wrong."
Later on Friday, the Washington Post quoted both how he said it did in conversations with reporters. Conversations that Priebus also mentioned on Meet the Press.
Home from Washington, D.C. was having an hours-long hearing on these very matters. So I'm confident that we're going to proceed in a manner that goes wherever the facts take us. But what you're talking about is what Reince Priebus did was having an hours-long hearing on these very matters. So I'm confident that we're going to proceed in a manner that goes wherever the facts take us. But what you're talking about is what Reince Priebus did was having an hours-long hearing on these very matters. So I'm confident that we're going to proceed in a manner that goes wherever the facts take us. But what you're talking about is what Reince Priebus did was having an hours-long hearing on these very matters. So I'm confident what you're talking about is what we do know or we don't know or how we know it. But again, if you just take the
White House trying to enlist the chairman of the two intelligence committees, but in particular Senator Burr, who has already announced an investigation, was that appropriate?
Well, as Reince Priebus said last weekend, Devin Nunes was already saying this on the record. The White House, I think, was trying to ensure that the media had more access to information. That's what the CNN story said about Reince Priebus. That's what Reince Priebus said.
Contacted by the White House?
I was not.
And if you had, would you have talked to the media at their request?
Chuck, I generally try to refrain from
Make it wider. I mean, that just seems like, it seems like you're selling something that can't
can't be done realistically.
I know a lot of Americans are skeptical about their government on a whole host of issues, and they should be, given the poor
I just
performance
much
seen.
I mean, it just seems like, it seems like you're selling something.
I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats. We can make our healthcare system more flexible. I think that we should trust the American people to make the right decisions for themselves. Obamacare didn't do that. It got too much power in the hands of politicians and bureaucrats.
But the fact of the matter is, you do have a lot of Sanders supporters from the primary who were skeptical of the Clinton wing of the party and see you as nothing more than an extension of that. How do you unite this party without just simply making it an anti-Trump party as a way to unite it?
Well, I thought we had a great day yesterday, Chuck, and Deputy Chair Ellison and I, we were there together, we were united, and our unity is our greatest strength, and frankly, our unity is Donald Trump's greatest nightmare. He's already tweeting this morning about the election being rigged, and frankly, he ought to be looking at the U.S. election last November through a special counsel. And what we saw yesterday, Chuck, not only in Atlanta, where the Democrats were gathered, but we saw up in Delaware great examples of how we are putting our activism into action. We had a special election there for the state Senate seat, and the state Senate hung in the balance. There was a tie. A lot of money was invested in that race by both sides, and we had 500 volunteers coming in. Our Revolution, the DNC, grassroots activists, all coming together, and we won that race. That's the energy. The most frequent question I get is, how do we translate the energy into action? Yesterday was a great example, not only here in Atlanta, where Congressman Ellison and I and the entire family of Democrats came out very united, but in Delaware, we've got a race right here in Cobb County, Georgia, for District 6, and we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm very excited about the road ahead. We need to make sure we're electing candidates from the school board to the Senate, and yesterday was the state Senate.
Let me show the hole that you're in as a party, and the hole which is surprising considering you had the White House the last 8 years. Since 2008, here's the financial hole. The Republican National Committee has outraised the Democratic National Committee with Barack Obama as the President of the United States and head of the Democratic Party by over $200 million over that 8-year period. And then look at the results. You know them. A loss of 11 Senate seats over that time, 63 House seats, 12 governorships, and nearly 1,000 state legislative seats. I know you've been talking about this grassroots approach. But the fact is, this party got gutted while you had a Democrat in the White House.
Well, we have to rebuild our parties in the 50 states and the territories, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We also have to redefine our mission. We not only elect the President of the United States, but we elect people from the school board to the Senate and everywhere in between, governors, secretaries of state, treasurers, attorneys general, and it started yesterday in Delaware, and I'm very excited about that. And I think there's an acute understanding that where we fell short is that we didn't invest enough in those state parties. When We lead with our values, and when we build that strong infrastructure, when we make house calls, when we're in every zip code, and I traveled 10 states over the last 5 days, Chuck, that's why my voice is scratchy.
Right.
And I heard from rural America that the Democratic Party hasn't been there for us recently. We have to make sure we have an every zip code strategy. That's how we win. That's exactly what we're going to do. These investments in grassroots organizing. Because our values are the right values. We've got to put those values into action.
I want to actually put up a quote that Howard Dean used during his presidential campaign, and some would argue that his tenure as chair of the Democratic Party is perhaps one of the most successful tenures in the modern history of the party. But he said this as a candidate: I still want to be the candidate for guys with Confederate flags in their pickup trucks. At the time, it was, we can't beat George Bush unless we appeal to a broad cross-section of Democrats. Just replace Bush with Trump, and that quote could be active today, that you've lost touch, whether it's rural America, whether it's, do you think you've lost touch culturally or economically or both?
Well, I think we have to underscore that economic message.
That's basically how similar this guy is. You just want to, just want to use.
And what they heard from Donald Trump is, I'm going to bring your coal jobs back. That's a lie. But what they heard is that he felt their pain. What they heard from us was that, we vote for us because we're not him. And we have to make sure we're communicating our affirmative message. We stand for good wages. We stand for Social Security. We stand for retirement security. We brought this nation Medicare. The Republicans are trying to voucherize Medicare and privatize Social Security. Donald Trump wants to eliminate overtime pay for people. Donald Trump he doesn't care about raising the minimum wage. But we have to communicate these messages consistently in every zip code, because I learned in my trip across this country during this campaign that a lot of people do feel forgotten, and we will not allow that to happen. We will be in every zip code.
What is, though, you're out there, I think even the words impeachment was thrown around a lot during yesterday's Democratic gathering, and this idea of resistance, even Hillary Clinton calling now for resistance of the party. If that's the message, does that a signal to the Senate and House Democrats, you can't work with President Trump no matter what he proposes?
Well, he hasn't proposed anything but chaos and carnage.
But he's talking about a $1 trillion infrastructure proposal, something that Bernie Sanders has been talking about for a decade.
We've seen no evidence, Chuck, of anything constructive from this president. Hours into his presidency, he made it harder for first-time home buyers to buy a home. A few days later, he tried to make it harder for people to save for retirement. He nominates someone to head the Labor Department who wants to gut overtime pay. He is continually talking one way, but I judge people by their actions. Look at the ill-advised and frankly racist executive action against Muslims. He has governed from the far right in everything he's done.
Are you comfortable with the Democrats being known as the party of no now?
The Democrats are the party of opportunity and inclusion. We are going to communicate our message, whether it's through lawsuits, like the state attorneys general did to stop the Muslim ban, whether it's through actions yesterday at the polls in Delaware, and hopefully April in Congressional 6 right here in Georgia. And we're going to communicate that message that we are the party that lifts your wages. We are the party that preserves your health care. We are the party that's going to be fighting for middle class.